Hello and welcome to the Trim Poetry Festival Poets Coaching Clinic. And I'm really looking forward to spending the next 15 minutes just chatting with you about the 7 key factors that will help us to sustain a flourishing writing practice. And as a writer myself, I often laugh. It's a bit like Alice in Wonderland, where I say I give very good advice, but I seldom ever take it. And that's the reality. Even though I know the theory, often I struggle myself to sustain a flourishing writing practice. I'm just going to share the screen with you now, and we'll get going. Okay. So I've identified 7 key factors that can help us to sustain a flourishing writing practice. So the first one is writer, know thyself. So knowing yourself as a writer, and I'll go through all of these, but now obviously very quickly, because these can take a full 6-week course to go through. But this morning we're just going to literally just kind of dive in and dive back out of them again. So writer, know thyself, valuing the work, designing a tailored writing schedule, building resilience, staying motivated, keeping accountable, and finding the right supports. So they are the 7 key factors that have been identified that can really, really help us to build and sustain a flourishing writing practice. So we're going to begin with writer, know thyself. And good old Snoopy is going to help me throughout the next while. He's a great man for the quotes. I'm a great admirer of my own writing, if only that were true for many of us. So just some questions for you to just think about. One is, why do you write? Who are you writing for? And what are your values as a writer? So just take your time, even pause the video, just take your time and just think about the answers to that. And the more we understand who we are as writers and why we write and what are those values that we have as a writer, the much clearer we are going to be about our goals as writers and what's important to us. So they're just some questions for you to think about. And the next one is valuing the work. And again, Snoopy is a great man to tell us just how the kind of value that he puts on his work, which is great. But I have a question for you here, and that question is, which comes first, the value we put on our own work or the value that others put on our work? And I've discovered in my own practice and as a coach as well, is that many of us struggle with the idea of us first putting a value on what we do. And we're almost waiting for other people to say, yeah, our work is good enough for us to really pursue it. So the question is it's like the egg and the chicken and the egg, is which comes first? And we really know that it's if we put a value on our work first. So what does it look like if we show up to our work in a really professional way and we take our work seriously? It is then much more likely that others will take our work seriously too. And we all know as audience, what's it like if we're in the presence of people who do take their work seriously, and we also know what it's like when we're in the presence of people who don't. We've all been at readings where people are fumbling, trying to find their pages or trying to scroll down through a phone, and there isn't that respect for the audience, and there isn't that respect for our work. So just asking ourselves that question again, just the value that we put on our own work or the value that others put on our work. And how do we demonstrate the value that we put on our own work? And it can be very surprising how, as soon as we do begin to value our own work, how others will follow suit. And the third factor is designing a tailored writing schedule. And the thing is, and the kind of the magic word in there is tailored. So the type of personality that you have, the type of person, are you a morning person, are you a nighttime person in terms of your energy flow, knowing what's your best time of the day or the week to write, understanding that if you have a lot of other responsibilities and commitments, and so many people do, how do you make time and space for your writing? So making sure that your writing schedule is tailored to who you are, what type of writing project you're on at the moment, and the type of time commitments that you have. A writing schedule, it needs to be realistic, it needs to be sustainable, and it needs to be flexible. So if we just look at realistic first, so often people are like, oh, I really got to get a writing schedule going, and I'm going to write every day for a month for 3 hours a day. And I would always say to people, what is a realistic schedule for you to begin with? And for many people, that might be actually, it'd be more realistic for me to say I'll write for 2 hours, 2 hours, maybe 3 times a week, and maybe a bit more time during the weekend. And it is also, because that I've got that word highlighted there, sustainable, because we are looking to create a writing schedule that we can sustain week in, week out. And of course, we're going to review our writing schedule regularly and change it as our circumstances change. But there's no point in writing like a lunatic for a week and then kind of losing all motivation then for the rest of the month. So we are looking for it to be realistic and sustainable. And it has to be flexible, because the reality is with our lives is one week is seldom the same as the next. So we have to make sure that our schedule is such that if we decided we were going to write Monday, Wednesday and Friday, and some Wednesday we can't for whatever reason, then we say, okay, I couldn't write this Wednesday, then will I write on Thursday, or will I do an extra hour at the weekend, or what you know yourself what I mean, but just that it's both realistic, that it's sustainable, and that it's flexible. And our writing schedule needs to be planned, visible, and measurable. So in terms of planned, is that kind of turning up and saying, oh, kind of, I wonder what I'll be writing today, or I wonder kind of what the week is going to give. We know in terms of goal setting that we are much more likely to keep something up and sustain it if we plan it beforehand. So saying to yourself, what will that look like? What will my writing schedule look like, for example, for the following week, or for the month? And that will go onto our second kind of important thing in terms of our writing schedule, and that it be visible. So whether or not you have your writing schedule written down on a page, or whether you have it as part of your diary, your online diary, having it so that visibly you can see it. And again, all the research has shown that if we write something down and we have it visible, we are much more likely to follow it. It's almost as if there's an authority that we give to whatever we've got written down. So that if you decide I'm going to write for 3 days a week, say for example Monday, Wednesday and Friday, and then 4 hours at the weekend, that you put that you either create a calendar page for that, or put that into your existing calendar. And then for most people, they just love the idea of being able to tick off then if the work has been done. And there's that piece then, the third piece around being measurable. So how do you measure the success of your writing schedule? So just whether you say to yourself, it makes no difference whether it's kind of word count, whether it's how you feel, whether you're looking for, whether you're saying, I turned up at the page, and even if I only got a paragraph written, I'm happy that's a success for me, because the most important thing is turning up regularly. So whatever measurement is right for you, that's the measurement that you take, but it has to be planned, visible, and measurable. And the fourth factor that is so important is building resilience. And all of us as writers know it's not easy being rejected. We know as writers it's not easy when we're not chosen. It's not easy when we're feeling ourselves that we're not valuing our work. But we do know that building resilience, and the quote here from Samuel Beckett is, fail again, fail better. Is that how we build resilience as writers? Is that we do try, we keep trying, we do put our work out there. If it is rejected, and let's face it, it happens all of the time that we do get rejected, then we continue and we just make sure that the work is getting better and that we're crafting it better. And perhaps being, not even perhaps, being a lot more strategic and clever about how we submit, making sure that we read the literary magazines and journals, and that we're matching the writing that we have with the writing that we see there. So it is about, and we may still fail, we may still not get accepted, but at least we are all the time working towards a situation where we are matching our work with the right audience. So I mean, that word fail obviously has kind of a negative connotation, but it really is just a part of any successful creative process, is giving ourselves permission to fail and fail again, but making sure that each time we fail better. And then the next one is staying motivated. And this is a tough one. You know, how do we keep ourselves motivated? But we also know as humans that part of how we continue to keep ourselves motivated is we make sure that we reward ourselves regularly. And we reward ourselves not just for the outcome, but we reward ourselves for effort. Our brain loves little rewards, and then we're much more likely to come back to an activity if we've rewarded ourselves. So staying motivated, if we're looking at our writing schedule, making sure that we're giving ourselves regular breaks, making sure that if we have reached our goal, if we have said I'm going to sit and write for 2 hours this morning, and we do, that apart from the reward of writing, which is writing itself is an intrinsic reward, but sometimes it's good also to have an external reward. So it might be a cup of tea and a biscuit, or a walk out, or a pint of beer, or whatever it is, just that we are making sure that we are rewarding ourselves, and that will really help us to keep motivated. And then some advice from the wonderful Margaret Atwood. She says, expect to be interrupted. So that there is that piece around, you know, even if we're in the flow of it, we can expect to be interrupted, and that's absolutely fine. And what we just do is we accept that as part of the process, and make sure that we're keeping ourselves motivated and moving forward with it. And then the 6th one is being accountable. And the definition of accountability can be described as the ability to own or claim our actions and understand the reasons behind them. Whether you have an agent, editor, or publisher to help keep you on the straight and narrow, or you are only accountable to yourself, being accountable forms the backbone of any flourishing writing practice. So there's that piece around, you know, never mind building resilience and staying motivated, just understanding there are some weeks where the writing just, we don't even turn up at the page, and and rather than beating ourselves up about it, we're saying, okay, I accept that I didn't write this week. Now, can I understand why? So recently during a clinic I was running, somebody was saying, you know, they haven't written as much this week as they had the previous week, and then when they were just looking at it in terms of being accountable, they recognized that they had a really tough week. They felt quite overwhelmed by what was happening in relation to COVID-19, and so kind of realizing and understanding why they hadn't written actually made them feel much calmer. And then they went on and said, okay, now I'm much clearer about what I need to do in order to keep to my writing schedule the following week. So that's that accountability piece. And finally, we have finding the right supports. So the right supports, whether it's a writing group, whether it's a writing buddy, whether it's taking a course, whether it's something like a lot of you are doing this weekend, you know, dipping into a festival and listening to other readers and getting involved yourself, whether it's through the workshop or whether it's through the open mic, but just making sure that you support yourself throughout your practice with the right types of support, and being clever, and I'm going to use that word again, strategic, about the type of supports that you need. So perhaps not giving your work to somebody who you really don't trust is a clever thing to do. You know, if somebody says, "Oh, I really would like somebody to read my work," just being very careful about the people that you do show your work to if you're looking for support, and making sure that you're valuing your work. And of course, the best support of all we can give ourselves is to read books. Read 1,000 books and your words will flow like a river. So that is an absolutely crash course through the 7 key factors of sustaining a flourishing writing practice. But even if you ask yourself, kind of, is there one thing that I took away from today, and what may you do differently or better in your writing practice based on what maybe insight or learning that you took away from today. So best of luck with your writing, onwards and upwards, and may it bring you the pleasure and joy that we all know that when we're in our flow, writing can bring us. So thanks a million, and happy rest of the festival.